Hello there, my name is Erik and I'm creating a cozy urban diorama building game called ShantyTown. The purpose of this game is to let players sit back, relax after a long day's work and build a little urban environment, one piece at a time. There are no time pressures, no points, or no scores to beat. Just you and your vibes. I mentioned in a previous devlog that I wanted to recreate my game's key art, and I think now is the right time to do that, right before a demo release. But first, what is key art?
What the heck?
You can consider this to be box art or main marketing artwork. You might ask yourself, why not just use a screenshot? It shows what the game actually looks like, right? Well, the purpose of key art isn't to show exactly what the game looks like, but to show what the game feels like to play. Let me explain. If you look at some of the best games' key art, you get a pretty good idea of what the game is about just from the art. For example, a tough cowboy simulator, futuristic dwarf miners, or just a military shooter. You know what kind of experience you're going to get from these pictures alone.
I see what's going on in here.
When making key art, everything should be considered. Should the background be expansive to show an open world adventure, or should it be closed and oppressive to show difficulty and struggle? Key art doesn't have to show the in-game art style. In fact, I think it's kind of better if it doesn't, as long as the feeling of the game comes across clearly. Most key art examples have the character front and center, which is, presumably, you, the player. ShantyTown, however, doesn't have a main character, just as most building games don't. This is because your creations are the main character. For my previous game, Kainga Seeds of Civilization, I drew my own key art. I'm very proud of what I created, but I think it's a bit chaotic and unfocused. So maybe it matches the game itself.
Ooh, self-burn. Those are rare.
This time around, I decided to team up with a professional artist to help me tackle this task. I knew that I'd need both vertical and horizontal frames, so I sketched out a scene from my game that allowed for both these angles, with a dense neighborhood on a peninsula as the subject of the art. The problem with this scene is the lighthouse is too prevalent. I like the peninsula and the way these buildings are stacked up, so I wanted to keep that. But the lighthouse invokes feelings of fishing games, nautical themes, or even Lovecraftian vibes, which isn't what ShantyTown is about at all. The artist did his own sketch, mind the colors,
Lots and lots of colors.
and I did some more thinking. Similarly to the lighthouse, this pipe is cool in-game, but it doesn't have any inherent meaning that I needed in this image.
Yeah. Oh! What's that?
So I cut it out. Basically, I slapped together a bunch of screen grabs to create a composition that came together nicely, with both a vertical and horizontal option for logo placement. The artist made another sketch on top of this, and I think it was going in the right direction. I sent a bunch of concept art, screenshots of the background elements, terraced rice fields, boats, flying cars, and these guys, which I'll talk about in the next devlog as well. Using these, he created a more detailed sketch, and then a color grading test. Although this marsh is pretty brown in game, I wanted to add a bit more color there. I was also worried about the amount of contrast in the background, but nevertheless, I trusted him to know what he was doing.
He knows what he's doing.
Let's see how it went from the idea to the final result.
That's pretty good.
I think it's absolutely beautiful. And although this isn't what the game actually looks like when playing, it has the correct feeling. I also think this image will attract the type of player that would enjoy this game, which is perfect. Now, time to touch up the logo. I did the logo myself in a previous devlog in about 20 minutes. I asked the artist to do a logo reimagination, and although I think that's a lot of fun,
Lots of colors.
it's not very legible or clear. So with my brother's help, we created a version that blends the old logo with the new one to create this. And I think it fits in great. The whole key art image is big enough that I can take different segments of it for Steam's different image size requirements. The difference between the old and the new one is like night and day. Check it out on the Steam page. And please wishlist the game if it looks interesting to you. Now, I guess my next challenge is to make the game look as good as the art.
One does not simply...
Speaking of night and day, I wanted to update this background cityscape, which was just a silhouette PNG. So I took a real-life city photo, stretched it, cutting the defining features, and exaggerated the height even further, and cut out a silhouette. I added this as a material to a flat plane, and then added the lights as a separate texture. I then spent some time combining 3 different moving noise surfaces and put it behind the lights. I created a system that randomizes the city's location so each plane would look a bit different. This graph then changes the light strength based on the time of day, using the noise textures. And that's pretty much it. You can see the subtle differences as it goes from day to night, as more lights are visible. What do you think? But I think that's enough for now. Thanks, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.